Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your job no longer exists. No emails, no deadlines, no meetings. Sounds impossible, right? Yet for 95% of human history, nobody had a job. So what did people actually do all day? And why do some anthropologists think they may have worked less than you? Imagine waking up with no alarm, no email, no paycheck waiting at the end of the week, no social media refresh cycle pulling your attention in 17 directions. Just existence. Raw, unmediated, infinite existence. This is the reality that shaped your brain. But here's what we don't talk about. We have absolutely no idea what ancient humans actually did with those hours. And that absence of knowledge, it's not accidental. It's revealing something deeply uncomfortable about who we are. See, we study ancient humans through artifacts. We find pottery, weapons, bones, burial sites. We build museums around these fragments and call it understanding. But these are the physical remains of a life. They're not the life itself. What we're missing is the texture of their days, the boredom, the conversations that nobody wrote down, the hours spent doing absolutely nothing of consequence, the psychological experience of existing without purpose. And when you sit with that absence long enough, something starts to feel wrong. Let's start with what we think we know. Ancient humans hunted, they gathered, they moved, they survived. Estimated time per day, 3 to 5 hours. That's it. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies suggest our ancestors spent maybe 15 to 20 hours per week on actual survival activity. Hunting, gathering, making tools, preparing food. Everything else? Time without structure. Time without the framework that modern life has built around us. Now try to imagine that. Not the romantic version where everyone's sitting around a campfire exchanging deep wisdom and ancient knowledge. That's television. That's our mythology protecting us from something harder. The real version is stranger. It's emptier. With 5 to 8 hours of daylight left after survival needs were met, humans had to invent meaning from nothing. And here's where it gets unsettling. We have almost no record of what they chose to fill that time with. This is the archaeological blind spot nobody mentions in documentaries. Archaeologists can tell you about ritual objects. They can point to cave paintings and say, spiritual expression. They can analyze bone flutes and declare music. But those represent maybe 0.001% of human activity. The rest vanishes. What did your ancestors do when they weren't doing anything? We don't know. And the unknowing matters. Because what we're looking at isn't a gap in the archaeological record. It's a gap in consciousness itself. A space where human experience happened that we can never recover. Billions of hours, trillions of moments, all of it gone. No record, no meaning assigned, just time passing. Most of us spend our entire lives trying to avoid that feeling. Here's what changed. We became terrified of empty time. Somewhere between the agricultural revolution and the industrial one, we made a collective decision. We decided that unstructured time was dangerous, that boredom was a threat, that a human without a purpose was a human without value, and we built entire civilization to prove it. We invented jobs, schedules, productivity metrics, the obsession with making the most of your time, the guilt that creeps in when you're doing nothing, the constant reaching for your phone because sitting alone with your own mind has become intolerable. But your ancestors, they lived in that space, not because they were enlightened, not because they had some ancient wisdom about mindfulness we've forgotten. They lived in it because they had no choice, because the alternative, constant, exhausting, productive labor didn't exist. And maybe, just maybe, something was different about a human mind in that state. We don't know if they were happier. They weren't necessarily. Happiness is not a constant, but neither is suffering. We don't know if they were more connected. They were interdependent, absolutely, but also isolated, petty, and tribal in ways that would horrify us. What we do know is this. Their brains had more raw processing power devoted to something other than survival and work, and they used it. They created religion, not organized religion, that came later, but the impulse, the explanation-making, the need to construct narratives that made chaos coherent. With all that unstructured time, humans invented the supernatural, gods, spirits, rituals to appease them, stories to explain suffering, mythology to make the universe feel less random, And here's the part that's hard to say out loud. Maybe that's what happens when a human mind has too much space to think. Maybe religion isn't evidence of wisdom. Maybe it's evidence of something darker. The human capacity to believe things that aren't true because the alternative, accepting pure randomness, pure chaos, pure meaninglessness, is psychologically unbearable. We filled the void with stories, and we never stopped. Even now, with jobs and apps and constant stimulation, we're still doing it. We still need the narratives. We still need the frameworks that tell us our lives mean something. We've just outsourced the creation of those stories to institutions, algorithms, and other people's expectations. But the ancient human, they had to build it from scratch. Every explanation, every origin story, every rule about how the world worked and why suffering existed and what happened after death. They invented it all from pure cognitive necessity. Not because they were stupid, because they were conscious, and consciousness, left alone, demands to know why. And this is where it stops being about them. You have 160 waking hours a week. After work, sleep, eating, hygiene, and the baseline maintenance of modern life, you probably have 15 to 20 hours of genuine free time. That's less than your ancestors, but you experience it differently. You don't sit in emptiness. You don't invent mythology to explain it. You scroll. You watch. You consume content created by other people specifically designed to prevent you from having to think. We've outsourced the meaning-making. We've decided that's too dangerous to do on our own. But your brain remembers. On some level, it understands that humans weren't designed to fill every moment with externally generated stimulation. And that awareness creates a subtle, pervasive unease that nobody names. You feel it in the anxiety, the depression that doesn't have a clear source, the sense that something is fundamentally wrong, even when everything is technically fine, the dread of your own company. Your ancestors faced that dread directly, and they responded by creating something. Stories, rituals, art, spirituality, meaning-making under pressure. You respond by reaching for your phone, and the tragedy isn't that your life is worse. The tragedy is that you've never had to discover what you actually need, what you actually want, or what it means to be alive when nobody's watching. The question in the title is misleading. It's not really, what did ancient humans do all day? The real question is, what are we not doing? What have we stopped making space for? What internal human capacity have we outsourced so completely that we've forgotten it was ever ours? And maybe the most unsettling part isn't that ancient humans had time. It's that we gave ours away, voluntarily.